be wrong, but we need to take a look at when those policies run. And I think we need to dive a little bit deeper in looking at ways that we can reduce expenses or at least have the money to pay for it and not have to borrow money to pay for it.
So at the point of interest rate, yeah, well, we would borrow
From our reserves, right? And we would pay those reserves back every month instead of paying the insurance policy every month, right? Which is what has been done previously. But the question is there going to be enough money in the reserves? And legally, can we borrow that? Can the Florida statute allow us to borrow that money? So essentially, we are self-funding our insurance policy, right? And reduce that. Yeah, so I mean.
So you pay.
Whether we could just loan.
Okay.
Isn't us that we have to have 10% of our budget in reserves?
Well, that's always been the 10% has. That's always been a thing. And so the new law is for the SIRS, the Structural Integrity Reserve items, that you're required in 2026 to fund 100%. And I'll go into that once we get into the reserves. Okay? So let's just.
If you could point out, there is a sale that fell through earlier this year because those funds were removed from the reserve accounts. That buyer could not get the financing from their lender. So if you can't show the reserve funds, even if there's a report that says you have X amount, if you can't show that, it really hinders people from being able to buy.
Simply funds definitely in a sale. However, I think our real problem here are the rent ratios. We're over 50%.
So there's three. Okay. I'm a realtor as well. So it's 10% in reserves, the percentage of renters, and then obviously what you have in your aging, right? They're the three main things that the mortgage companies are looking for. If any one of those do not meet their criteria, you're not going to get approved. All right, so let's continue.
I have a question. Nicole made a statement. She made a statement. Somebody didn't get a mortgage because the reserves were removed. Can you please tell me which apartment that was?
Well, I don't want to call apartment numbers in open forum, like, no.
Oh, you don't want to do that. So you just want
We're
to.
doing the budget, let's not.
You just want to make statements.
And not go back in the past.
Well, no,
Stay on
we
the-
made a statement, and I want to hear it because I was up there, and the banks would say this and that, but somehow it always went through. So that could be just a difference of who was handling it. That could be the issue. But it's okay. You just want to keep talking. I got it.
Okay, let's keep going. So management fees. So Tony wants to know what's the unit that fell through, that the sale fell through. And yes, and I mean, it's not the place and time on public forum to disclose unit information or anything to that. Okay, and we'll move forward. So management fees. Originally, there was a budget for $62,000. That was the cost, I believe, from what I've been told, from Maureen, what we've discussed. That was the old property manager, whatever fees were being paid associated with that. This line item now is converted to our Castle's monthly cost. So for our annual cost, it's $48,257. So currently monthly it's $39.17. There is a 4% increase per our contract at renewal. So the renewal is the percentage of the renewal is only being calculated for the last 8 months, not the first 4 months. There's actually a formula here on this line item. So it's the 4 months at the current rate and then 8 months with the 4% increase. Hold on a second. What did I do? Okay, so I'm here. So that is our contract. Now, management salaries and benefits. So there is, yes, that is the contract. That does not include any employees. That is all of our home, we call our main office home office. So all of our home office support, resident services, the accounting department, financials, all of the overhead above Nikki, the support. Complying, all of our executive officers, all of the additional stuff that we do, like the quality insurance inspection that I did, everything else that is at a higher level than your on-site manager, which includes the association accountant that's assigned to you, the senior accountant that's assigned for your financials, CastleNet, I mean, all of the other stuff that we offer. So we have a complete library of all bunch of different types of documents that are accessible to your property manager, templates of various different spreadsheets, documents that can be used for your association as well. Okay. Salaries. So I have a separate spreadsheet salary, but before I go here, because I know this is a huge topic, this number, and I have no issue for full transparency, showing what that looks like. So one of the things that I discussed, because I went through this with David Marine last week. So when we obtain a contract under Castle, right, we advise the board what the current market rate is for a property manager. Currently, it's around $85,000 for the size and type of community that you have, right? On the higher end, and I was explaining, I have a it's about 235 unit condo on the beach. It's called Sea Monarch, where they pay $115 for their manager. On the low end, I have an account that pays $75 for a 114 unit 10-story building, right? And it's very hard to staff at a $75K rate. So when we obtain a contract with a client, the board makes a decision as to what they want that rate to be for the manager. And that was what was decided when we obtained the contract, and that's what we hire at, okay? The 29% labor burden, which is part of our contract, covers payroll, taxes, liability, workers' comp, all of the other benefits. So we do 401k, short-term, long-term disability, all of those items fall under the 29% labor burden. Our contract only calls for one employee, which is the property manager. Okay, here you're going to see a maintenance tech and groundskeeper. This was something that was discussed with the board and proposed, however, it wasn't necessarily 100% approved, and we can adjust tonight, right? So that was if the board decided to, and I'll be honest. So when I first got here, I had a conversation with Basil and with Steve. They mentioned to me that they wanted to be W-2 employees. They came directly to me and they had that conversation, right? That is not Castle's decision. That is a board's decision if they want to have them as part of Castle. Under our current contract, they're not on there. They're basically considered as vendors right now for your association, right? They're on 1099. They're not even employees of the association. So they don't get benefits. They don't get paid time off. They're paid, they submit an invoice on a monthly basis, and they're paid like if they were a vendor. Correct. So originally when we were doing the budget, we were proposing if they wanted to become W-2 employees and bring them on as such to have that incorporated. There was also a conversation in full transparency that maybe one of the employees at some point may individually step back, not a decision from the board or management, just how do I say, in a way where I'm not disclosing HR matters. Basically take a personal decision to step back, or we would be required to then find a replacement, okay? And then what would that look like? So currently, and full transparency, right? So currently, the individuals do not work 40 hours a week for River Shores, right? I believe there may be, what, like 20?
No, 25 for Basil, and Steve right now is only 3 days, so it's 15 hours.
So Steve is 15 hours a week for River Shores, and Basil is at 25 hours for River Shores. So in discussion, they asked, what is the current rate for a maintenance tech or a groundskeeper? Worst case scenario, you guys needed to hire somebody tomorrow. So the going rate right now for a groundskeeper is about $20, and for a maintenance tech is about $22 an hour. That is the current market rate across all properties of what we're hiring at, okay? We obviously know that this is an extreme expense onto the budget. So I know that there was conversation in email, prior with the board about possibly removing this, and the board has decided to just remove that option and just keep it as is, as their contracted expenses. Okay, the other thing that you see here also is insurance. So the insurance is not covered in the 29% labor burden rate. Castle employees have, I think, 3 or 4 different options to choose from medical coverage. They pay a certain portion, the association pays the difference. So the rate for 2025 is $715 per month. Okay, there are options just for full transparency. Like for instance, myself, I take insurance from Castle Group. I pay about $100 a month. Castle pays the difference. Obviously, you guys don't pay for me, but Castle will pay the difference. But for any employees on site, the association pays that difference. So if we were to go ahead and remove this, so one of the comments that came about when I met with David Marine last week was to separate the individual positions within the budget. So if I go ahead and basically remove this, right, it leaves your manager at 121,520. So if I put this here, property manager, and then we have here, I don't know if you want to keep it as groundskeeper. So what is it that we pay him monthly right now?
2,100 is Basel.
2,100 a month?
Mhm.
It's 2,800 for Steve. No, that is their current hours that they work right now.
Nicole,
River Shores, yes.
Give me 1 second, Adrian, that's somebody's.
okay.
I think he does 2 hours for Middle River Club each day, and then there's an hour for lunch. Right. Yeah, he does for Middle River.
Yeah, so whatever agreement the 2 employees have with Middle River doesn't really have to do with River Shores, right? They are paid separately through Middle River for whatever they do for Middle River.
I just want to clarify, they're not employees and they don't work on an hourly basis. I think that just keeps things very muddy, so they get paid, they're
So,
vendors, they get
Adrian
paid for the
said-
work they do, not by the
So
hour.
Adrian said, so she said that they're not employees and they're not paid hourly, right? So as independent contractors, they're paid just for the work that they do. So, but if we were to break it down in a matter of hours, right, that's basically what we're getting out of those employees for what we're paying, or what you guys are paying. Okay, so I've gone ahead and adjusted the budget to add in the 2 separate line items under contracted services for the groundskeeper and the maintenance tech at their current rate. Do we know if they're going to increase their rates for next year? So they were under the impression that they may be W-2 employees, so I don't know
I think,
what their,
Yeah.
you,
Well, definitely for the groundskeeper, that figure will have to probably be adjusted, because remember, we are taking the groundskeeper over to River Shores 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, so basically full time. So
groundskeeper is Basil, and Basil has agreed to come over as a full-time employee?
Well, he wanted to be W-2 though, so I guess it would have to be a conversation.
Oh, what did he say?
yes.
However, if we were to increase his money to offset these taxes, he would be quite happy with that. And I just want to point out, if you're a castle management employee, they get a 29% overhead. It is in our best interest to get a contract with these suppliers that specifies what they're going to be doing for us and what their rates are. So he has not had an increase, has not taken a vacation, and I think that he is due an increase.
Well, I think that's why this even came up, because at first he had talked about wanting to be W-2. We know how hard he works, how valuable he is here, and we were trying to move in that direction. I think what we're gonna now have to do is find, you know, an increase for him that's gonna make sense. Perhaps also pay for his supplies, because if you don't know this, he pays for all of the supplies he uses. He pays for all of them. So, yeah, we want to validate how important Basil is here and how much we appreciate him. No, but that's not happening.
So I'm hearing all this business stuff, and it's a little concerning, because we're condominium, not one. Makes a difference in my head. Maybe it's because I'm a realtor. I think business different than most people, but it sounds like we're getting into employees and more corporate stuff. Am I wrong?
It's whether or not you hire a supplier to price the service, or you go to capital.
Well, it's
You
going
know,
to
in capital. Now you get oversight, you get management, you get checklists, you make sure they're doing their job, you get backup, so with that overhead, you get additional services, right? But
Please go, I just see a lot of things to do. I don't think Steve can walk around.
So one of the things, so what I explained to Maureen, right? Maintenance or janitorial employees under Castle are required to, we have certain property checklists, we have routine, whether it's preventive maintenance, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly reports that they're required to do. We do quarterly audits as well to make sure that they're complying with the standards of what Castle is in reference to the maintenance and groundskeeper. We also, if they need additional training, so if we hire a maintenance tech and let's say they don't know how to do drywall, we have a regional maintenance supervisor that can train our staff. We can send them to a nearby property. If they need to take a vacation for whatever reason and I have somebody on the bench, we can fill the position where the property is not seeing any lapse of coverage. That's if they were with Castle.
But we're not doing that. I mean, so I don't know why we're wasting time on it. We're not doing it, and by doing what we are going to do, we're going to save $55,000 out of the marina, out of the budget, and that's what we have to do, because we're not going to do that. So there's no point in talking about what we could have done. We're not doing it.
And your dues goes up. So if you want to know what the bottom line is, it's $62 to keep Nicole versus having Tony and everything that comes along with Castle management. That's how much your monthly maintenance is going to go up. If you bring on the suppliers as permanent employees, it goes up to $85. So it's just a matter of how you want to manage your resources. Do you want them under Castle management, or do you want them under the property manager?
Okay, so I mean, just going forward, we're keeping them under currently where they're at. So they're not coming over as Castle employees. Those calculations have been removed, right? So the property manager, which was the salaries, is now reduced to 121 to, yes. So I removed it here. So now this is at a 0. So the only thing that's being calculated is the top portion, which is the manager, okay? Yes.
Cam license, does, like, Nikki have a cam license, is it through Council, how does that come down?
So every manager is required to have a CAM license. So she has her CAM license as well as I have my CAM license. So even in the event that she's out of the office and I need to be here for whatever reason, we're licensed. Yes. Yes.
Sorry, Nicole.
Yes.
Based off this though, so even if we were to not do the groundskeeper or the maintenance tech on a W-2, we are still then paying them, right? Because they are currently contractors. So the money is coming from somewhere.
Yes. So I just created 2 separate line items here. I just created these 2 line items that were not in the budget before because they were all looped up into the salaries. So I've broken it apart now. But these